They work behind the scenes. Their skills, spatial awareness, superhuman calm and precision.
The standard is perfection. You're always looking to do it perfectly.
They speak a bizarre language only they can understand.
Heavy Kennedy Tower, caution Mike turbulence, from my 2 right short and Yankee Alpha, line up and wait.
They work in places that the public never visits. Their job is one of the most stressful in the world, their responsibility huge.
In my head, I saw the 2 planes crash and fall right onto a neighborhood.
Bottom line is, if it doesn't take your life, it certainly is going to take your health.
And I felt like I was the worst criminal who had ever lived.
Every minute of every day, they hold the lives of thousands in their hands. Who are they? The hidden heroes of the air traffic controllers.
A good air traffic controller is a fearless warrior.
The great cities of the world, like New York and Paris, have airports that handle altogether 3 billion passengers a year. And every year, those numbers just keep going up. Every day, the challenge facing air traffic control grows. Air traffic is increasing 5% a year, while controllers are working with the same airspace overhead. How will they be able to deal with the increased traffic? The strains on the system are mounting, and new technology seems to be the answer. But will it be enough? Air traffic control. Our lives depend on it, but it's a job that's getting harder every year.
Blue 105 Kennedy Tower, caution Mike turbulence, from my 2 right short and Yankee Alpha, line up and wait. Jeff behind the arrival, cross 1 at Juliet. American 973, Roger, you can follow JetBlue and hold short of runway 22 right. He's ready. Level 459 on runway heading, contact New York departure. Good night. One of the things that people don't understand is it's such a finely choreographed movement of very large pieces of aluminum. It's a ballet of 500,000-pound pieces of aluminum.
It's not easy getting around a big city like New York. With millions of commuters, transportation is a nightmare. And not just on or under the ground. Every day, there are more than 90,000 commercial flights taking off around the world. That means that there are more than 500,000 people in the air at any given time. And a surprising percentage of them are over the very crowded skies of the New York metropolitan area. Working air traffic at New York's Kennedy Airport is tough. Steve Abraham's been doing it for 25 years.
Yeah, it's, too many airplanes. And biggest city in the United States, and a lot of people want to fly in and out of here. It's why we have 3 major airports that are all at 100% capacity. It's hard for people to understand that, they look up in the sky and see how much airspace there is, that, airplanes should all be able to move freely, because sky's a big thing. The road is a very confined place, but the airspace in and around New York is very constrained.
Despite how much we depend on them, most of us know very little about what air traffic controllers do.
I don't think anybody understands what I do for a living.
Air traffic controllers? They watch the traffic, the planes.
I have no idea. Oh, just direct traffic in and out of the airport?
I've told people I'm an air traffic controller, and they've said, so you're the guy with the wands that parks the airplanes?
And where do they work?
In the control tower?
In the airport, in the big, I don't know what you call it, the big circular thing.
I've been asked if air traffic controllers are the people who check your ticket when you board the plane.
They work at the airport, but I think they cover more than that.
I'm scared about the middle bit. That they don't bother about it. It's just the takeoff and the landing. I'm scared, that's all.
Commander Eric Prévost and co-pilot Stéphane Carminati will be flying tonight from JFK to Paris's Paris Charles de Gaulle.
There's a lot of traffic in New York, but the air traffic controllers know how to handle it all and guarantee our safety.
See you soon.
One thing about New York, in fact the USA in general, is the use of airspace by all types of traffic, whether it's big airliners or little Cessnas. At the same airport, you'll find a 747, a Cessna 152, and helicopters. There are all types of aircraft in the same place, and it's lots of traffic.
For the first couple of generations of commercial air travel, there was no need for much air traffic control. There just weren't that many planes. Like sailors, pilots could set a compass course for their destination and fly there directly. The skies belonged to them. Soon, however, the skies belonged to everyone, and air traffic grew every year. The only way to prevent disastrous accidents was to create a permanent international system of air traffic control. This was made possible with the development of radar during the Second World War. Finally, we knew where a distant airplane was. The first version of radar, called primary radar, is a basic system. An electronic signal is sent from a land-based radar tower. When it hits an object, it bounces back, showing where that object is. Secondary radar, as it's called, is still used today. A signal is sent from a radar tower, but the aircraft sends back a packet of information, including its identification, altitude, and bearing. All of this now shows up on the radar screen. We will follow a large passenger jet as it flies from New York's JFK to Paris's Paris Charles de Gaulle. Throughout this 6,000-kilometer flight, at least a dozen controllers will be in charge, from ground control to departure to a series of en route controllers.
70 vectors IS 279.
41 monitor tower 120.9.
This global network of air traffic control manages the tens of thousands of flights that take off every day. But in order to do that, each air traffic controller around the world must be kept up to date about our flight. That process starts many hours earlier in the airline's control center in Paris. Air France 011 is hours before takeoff, but its flight plan, which describes the exact route, is already being worked on by the French dispatcher in charge of North American flights.
I'll start preparing the flight, and my colleague on the afternoon shift will monitor the plane until it lands.
Il vient juste d'atterrir, 19h03.
Super. Donc, et il est à l'heure. Hein?
Ouais, il est à l'heure.
Très bien, c'est parfait. Ça va? On y va?
You might think that the route from point A to point B would be a straight line, the shortest route. But aeronautics isn't like that. There are a number of factors to consider, especially avoiding storm cells on the aircraft's flight path. Our priority is the safety of the flight. We also do our best to make the flight as comfortable as possible for passengers.
Because the flight will land in Europe, the flight plan has to go to Brussels, to an agency called Eurocontrol. They oversee and coordinate all the flight plans throughout most of Western Europe, and there are 10 million of them every year.
We are here in Brussels in the operations room of the European Network Manager of Eurocontrol. In fact, we have the 40 countries which are members of Eurocontrol. We also have Estonia and Morocco. So in fact, we have the airspace of 42 different countries that we carry out a number of centralized functions for here.
Eurocontrol receives and approves around 30,000 flight plans a day. A flight plan is like a contract between the pilot and the air traffic system.
On your specific flight, the day before the flight, for a long-range flight like that, the flight plan would have been sent both to the Air Traffic Control Organization in the United States and also to us for Europe. That flight plan we would have checked it to make sure the route is available and it can be flown. If there was any problem, we would have contacted immediately the company operating the flight, agreed the new route with them, acknowledged that, a copy of that is given to the pilot so he has exactly the same route as the air traffic control is expecting, as we are expecting.
Merci.
How are you, sir?
Fine, you.
How's it going? Good to see you again.
Thank you.
Too long. It's been too long.
Back in New York, our crew is working away in a room you've probably never seen. It's where they will go over the flight plan prepared in Paris and approved in Brussels, the one that's now in the hands of all the air traffic controllers along the route.
So we have two domestic ADSs, Moncton and Gander. We switch to Oceanic ADS Gander, then Oceanic ADS Shanwick, and then ADS Domestic Shannon. Okay?
Our New York controller, Steve Abraham, is on his way to work. In Paris, the controller who will land our plane is driving home.
He's full of life, full of energy, and he loves what he does. But I have a tired husband. The only time he can really rest is on vacation. When he's working, Thomas gets up tired and goes to bed tired because his biological clock is totally disrupted by the fact that his hours change every day.
In New York's Kennedy Airport, Steve Abraham works in the control tower. This is the best-known part of air traffic control, although the tower controllers in fact only work the airspace immediately around the airport.
The 471 Heavy Kennedy Tower, runway 22 right, short.
Like controllers everywhere, Steve Abraham works different shifts and often different jobs in the tower. Today, he's what's called the local controller.
011 Heavy, contact New York departure. Good night. As the local controller, my responsibilities are for 1, 2, or 3 runways. Usually either arrivals or departures. And, with 2 departure runways, the goal is to get airplanes specifically spaced. If you can roll them 3 miles apart, you want them exactly 3 miles apart. You try and time it perfectly, and you also know instantly whether you've been too fast or too slow.
Combining efficiency and safety, this is the daily challenge for air traffic. A lot of that responsibility falls on the shoulders of the ground controller.
The ground controller is responsible for all the airplanes taxiing around the surface of the airport. The arrivals, once they get off the runway, talk to the ground controller to get to the ramp. The departures that come off the ramp and want to go to the runway, the ground controller is the person responsible for setting the departure sequence. The ground controller can make or break the airport. In a busy evening, you can have a ground controller that's ineffective that can put the airport into delays for 4 hours. I mean, just forever. Just because their sequence is not effective. Ground control has no predictability. He does not know who's going to call. He does not know where they're going to call. And you have to take chaos and make it organized. The guys from Singapore can taxi that airplane anywhere. Air France, Lufthansa, all those guys need Foxtrots. Singapore, you can take that guy anywhere.
chaos can reassert itself in a second. Bob Richards knows that well. He worked the tower at Chicago's O'Hare, one of the busiest towers in the world.
There's always that pressure when all of a sudden, out of nowhere, a pilot declares an emergency. Now your adrenaline's pumping. In your hands are the lives of the people on that airplane, the crew, and everything else. You and you alone have to do something to make it happen. You have to make choices in those split seconds that could make the difference between life and death. Medical emergencies are fairly common just about every day. Somebody's having a seizure, a child is bleeding. There's so many different types of medical emergencies, and what you have to do in that situation is you have to take the airplane wherever it is and remove everybody in front of that airplane and get it to the runway as fast as you can.
There are thousands of lives at stake, but that's the one thing that controllers can't afford to think about.
You really don't have time to think about the people on the airplane. You don't have time to think about what's the ramifications if something should happen.
Yes, they're filled with people, and that's always in the back of your mind. But you don't think that, Aunt Mary's sitting in 13B when you say clear for takeoff.
The truth about stress in this job is nobody tells you about it. The concept that the public has, it is a stressful job, and they're right. But in your 20s and 30s, you don't think of it that way. It's when you start having a little heart palpitations, you have a little atrial fibrillation, you start having some pains in your stomach that you start to realize in your 40s and 50s, maybe there's something I missed. And yes, and then you start seeing the worst case is, I saw 6 of my best friends die in the tower, and they were ages 29, 30, 38, 39, 43, and 49.
The skies may be getting more and more crowded, but with airports that have remained the same size, air traffic control has been forced to ratchet up the pace. And this has increased even more the pressure on air traffic controllers.
When it came to that realization after the first funeral I went to, it really hit me that, hey, wait a minute, you gotta pay attention to your body. You can't just go haphazardly into this thinking that you're invincible, because you're not.
500 cross runway 22 right, taxi right on Bravo without stopping.
Air traffic control is changing, but it's a conservative profession. Controllers in most locations still use paper strips, which are printed out and then written on by hand, just like they were 30 years ago. New technology is coming to places like New York, which will increase traffic flow, but there are some worries about it.
Technology's great. I tend to be concerned about whether we have made it, and I don't want to say too easy, but we've become too reliant. There are times when the technology completely fails and you need to have the skill set, because the airplanes don't stop coming. There's, your radar may go out, your ground radar might not work. The pilots don't know that, and they still want to come here, and it's the ability to manage, that unexpected situation that really separates somebody with a lot of abilities from somebody who just does the job.
On the runway, Flight 011 is close to takeoff.
Eva 32, give way to Air France.
Once the aircraft is ready for departure, the local or departure controller takes over from the ground controller. Steve Abraham will depart our flight tonight.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Eric Prévost. I'm your captain on this flight to Paris Charles de Gaulle.
Paris Charles de Gaulle.
Air France 011, heavy Kennedy tower, caution white turbulence from white teacher right, shortened at Yankee Alpha, line up on wing.
There is an aircraft taking off somewhere in the world every second of the day. And despite the crew's native language, they almost always speak to air traffic control in English, although air traffic jargon seems a language of its own.
Air France 1600, bonjour, roulez Echo 5, Roméo, point d'arrêt Tango, 10, piste 26 droite.
Air jargon is a simple 300-word language designed to be understood by everybody, whatever their native language is.
Tango, Alpha Lima Golf Oscar.
Waiting A243, turn left Romeo Bravo.
So everyone agrees. For the letter A, you say Alpha, L is Lima, T is Tango, etc. But it all does sound strange.
1 at Golf, 1 at Hotel, 1 at Juliet.
On the runway, our flight is being directed by Steve in the tower. But within minutes of takeoff, it will be followed by other controllers. From beginning to end, from takeoff to landing in Paris, the flight will always be followed.
FedEx 127 Heavy, cross runway 13 left at Charlie Delta, then taxi right Bravo, short.
France 011 Heavy, wind 0803, runway 22 right, shortened at Yankee Alpha, clear for takeoff.
Right.
Kennedy Tower, caution careful, runway 13 right, full length, modified way. Last warning, 13 right, full length,
Takeoff.
416.
First set. What is it flying?
Europe, France 011 Heavy, heading 155.
France 011 Heavy, contact New York departure. Good night.
On the East Coast, there's fine weather above Boston.
After passing by Boston, Air France 011 enters Canadian airspace, heading towards Moncton, New Brunswick. With a vast landmass situated between North America, Asia, and Europe, thousands of flights pass through Canada every day. As a result, the country has developed one of the most sophisticated air traffic control systems in the world. It's run by an agency called NAV Canada. On the outskirts of Moncton, New Brunswick, in a low brick building, are the people who will guide our flight over Canadian airspace. These en route controllers are not in a tower. There are no windows. The lighting is subdued and unchanging.
Kennedy 71 Heavy, Moncton Center, good.
I'm an en route controller in a high-level airspace in Moncton Area Control Center, meaning I control 29,000 feet and above, mostly handling flights that are about to transit the Atlantic Ocean, whether coming from Europe or going to Europe from North America. This phase of air traffic control generally tends to be the unknown or the hidden side of it. Again, it's not, we don't work in a tower. We don't see the airplanes per se. We're looking at radar screens. We're in a more dimly lit room, talking through communication tools that we don't see those airplanes at all.
Air France 011, contact Moncton Center 135.2.
Moncton Center, good evening, Air France 011 AV, CPDLC, flight level 370.
Air France 011 Heavy, Moncton Center, good evening. Reports of light chop. All flight levels for level 410 and below for the next 30 minutes.
Copy the 011.
Over land, controllers still rely on ground-based radar to know where a plane is. But NAV Canada's using a more advanced tool called ADS. With ADS, the airplane on its own will send data to air traffic control. Our flight will have 3,000 kilometers of ocean to cross. For more than 2 hours, it will be completely off any radar screen. Like everyone else, our crew wants the optimal altitude and speed. En route controllers keep everyone in a safe and spaced order.
In the sky, they don't have on-ramps and off-ramps and things like that. It is an open sky and stuff. So the controller's kind of taken some of that responsibility on who goes first, who comes second, the merging and the sequencing of those aircraft.
It's complicated work with lives at stake. How does anybody learn how to do this? In Canada, everyone goes through a long recruitment and training process. There is classroom time, but much work goes on here. This could be any control tower in Canada, but it's not. It's a simulator, one of the many high-tech gadgets that Canada and many other countries use to train controllers.
This is a VFR simulator to simulate traffic in a tower environment. This is where they get to demonstrate their abilities to move on to the next stage of training in an actual tower.
In the simulator, the student learns to deal with all kinds of situations. Weather, like fog, snow, storms, they have to learn to handle them all.
This simulator is realistic to the point where it creates the scenarios to a level that the students are continually learning, so that when they go to an actual tower, they've demonstrated a certain level of competency where they're ready to grow towards becoming a successful air traffic controller. If they don't do it right, they won't move on to the next stage of training. In the real world, of course, there's real lives on the line.
Quarter Air 249er, exit left Bravo, contact ground 1219er, when on.
As part of their training, controllers learn how to deal with the pressures of their job. NAV Canada has an innovative approach that aims to keep its employees focused and energetic. All air traffic controllers have rooms for naps, massages once a week, and even a small gym for a stress-reducing workout.
I'm 23 and I've been qualified for a little over 3 years now. So I've been working by myself for 3 years, and I think I trained for a year and a half prior to that.
Siobhan Brown is an air traffic controller in Moncton. For her, this is a family business.
I think the reason I chose air traffic control was just, well, my grandfather did it, my father does it. So I applied and I went from there. It's like a puzzle. You get to look at specific scenarios and pick a solution and execute it.
Monarch 349 Roger, and about 10 minutes ahead, some reports of light chop.
It's about planning, and you get to choose what you do every time. So it's nice to be able to solve your own problems without having to ask a manager or someone who's above you if you're allowed to do something. You just have to keep your head up, and every time there's a setback and a problem, you just think about it, learn from it, and move on. United 63 Moncton Center, good day.
Meanwhile, our flight now heads out over the ocean.
At the moment, we're above the area of Gander, and their ground radar knows our exact position.
Over the ocean, Flight 011 will be tracked by a Canadian en route center, located in Gander, Newfoundland. It's the largest transoceanic control center in the world.
What we do here in Gander is we take flights basically from North America in the evening, and they fly across to Europe. They drop off their passengers, they load back up, and they come back during the daytime. And our job is to get those planes over as efficiently as we can.
All the planes that are crossing the Atlantic going to Europe want a good spot, riding the high winds of the jet stream. This powerful wind will save both time and money.
Here in Gander, we've designed tracks. It's almost like road maps. They all join these little tracks and they fly across. It helps us as controllers get them across efficiently and get the most planes at the best levels possible. There's a lot more going on in the North Atlantic than people would probably realize. You say there's 1,000 flights a day, 500 east, 500 west. It's a 24-hour operation, 7 days a week. When we issue an aircraft clearance, we have to plan the traffic so that they're separated by 10 minutes each. When an aircraft passes point A, if he goes by at a certain time, the next aircraft can't pass that point for the next 10 minutes. It's somewhere between 60 to 80 miles, depending on their speed, of course. So we are kind of guessing they should be here at this point. We don't have an exact position.
The way it works is that there are gateways at the beginning and the end of the ocean crossing. And to ensure there's enough space between aircraft, I need to show up at the exact spot stated on the flight plan at a precise time, velocity, and altitude, and then maintain my speed. You see, all aircraft must rigorously maintain their designated airspeed in order to keep the correct spacing all the way across the Atlantic.
To help airplanes to get to the other side of the ocean has been Gander's mission from the beginning. Gander Airport was built in 1939, just in time for the Second World War. Airplanes needed to refuel here after crossing the Atlantic, and for a while, it was the largest airport in the world with 4 immense runways. And those 4 large runways were put to a surprising use on the 11th of September, 2001.
There's the plane, you can't miss that.
That's when the U.S. closed down its airspace.
There was a lot of confusion, a lot of panic. I'm sure in the cockpits it was crazy. Our airport up here, I think we had 40-odd planes land.
Dozens of aircraft that were heading to the U.S. were forced to land in Gander. Even in its heyday, the airport had never seen anything like it.
The population of Gander, I think they say, almost doubled. We had about 10,000 people land here that day, which was amazing. Personally, down south, that was the busiest day I've ever had. I think I was the busiest guy in the world that day.
When an aircraft leaves Gander's radar range, they are not on anyone's screen for 2,500 kilometers. That's about to change. New technology will be able to follow a plane even over the ocean. Canada, Ireland, and Italy have combined with the private sector to put in place a vast complex of GPS-type satellites that will keep in touch with airplanes no matter where they are in the world. With this increased surveillance over remote areas, planes will be able to safely fly much closer together. Approximately halfway across the ocean, our flight leaves Gander Control and is picked up by Shanwick, the control center shared by Ireland and the UK. Continental Europe is not far away. Making his solo crossing of the Atlantic in an airplane was enough to make Charles Lindbergh the most famous man of his day. Now it happens literally thousands of times every day. In Paris, Thomas Bittard has reached the top of his profession, working at Paris Charles de Gaulle, France's busiest airport. In a few hours' time, he'll be handling the approach of our flight from New York. Thomas has been a controller for a long time, and that habit of control doesn't always stay confined to work.
Yes, Thomas and I laugh about it. I joke that I married a controller. He always has to be in control, not just as an air traffic controller. That's the way he is. He's a control freak. He'll finish my son's sentences. When I ask Elias or Eris a question, he'll answer instead. He checks my checking of their homework. He's in command. There's no room for spontaneity with Thomas.
When I talk to a pilot, when I give him an order, he'll not only tell me he's understood, he'll repeat what I said word for word, because it's the safest way to demonstrate that he understood. And it's true that when I ask for something, if I don't get a response fairly quickly, I get annoyed. I can see how it might be irritating.
Like most air traffic controllers, Thomas has had his share of tough situations at work. One day, 2 airliners with hundreds of passengers on board came dangerously close. The memory still haunts him.
One of the pilots asked me to confirm several times. I asked to see the recording of the event because I took it very hard. My perception was that it had taken a long, long time and the planes had come very close. Not at all. It lasted 1 second and everything worked out fine. The passengers were unaware, neither pilot complained or anything. But that instant, when you're suddenly treading water, was very, very hard. In my head, I saw the 2 planes crash and fall right onto a neighborhood. and I felt like I was the worst criminal who had ever lived. Charlotte helped me a lot. She really pulled me out of there because for 3 days and 3 nights, it was tough.
I could tell that something was bothering him, and I remembered him saying it was important to talk, so I made him talk. And I kept him grounded in reality, because I realized what he was feeling for those 3 days, and in fact beyond, was as if the accident had actually happened.
Our plane is now partway across the North Atlantic, chasing the next morning's sunrise. Soon it will be over Europe and being tracked by Paris. Landing will be at Charles de Gaulle, and Thomas Bittard will be there. Like Steve Abraham in New York, his daily commute is a battle with stop-and-go traffic.
The big difference between traffic jams in the air and on the ground is that you can say to a car, stop, there are too many cars. But you can't do that with an airplane. That's what makes it hard. That's the source of the stress and also the excitement. You absolutely must find a solution. And that's what I love about Paris Charles de Gaulle Airport. That's what the people who stick with it love, and what makes it a pleasure to go to work.
Air France 1890, bonjour, laissez passer le 319 là en face de vous, puis roulez Roméo pour le point d'arrêt Tango 10, piste 26 droite.
There is a reason that air traffic control is primarily a young person's profession. The stress can be enormous.
Et en fait, c'est vrai que la pyramide des âges est assez spéciale.
It's true that the age range is fairly unusual. You don't find many controllers over 40, and that's because of the constant challenge of managing the traffic. It's stimulating, motivating, but over time it can get to be too much for some people.
Air traffic control is always stressful, even if mostly everything goes well. You never know what will happen. Take the 25th of July 2000. That day, Gilles Logelin was the controller for the takeoff of the supersonic jet, the Concorde.
It's eye-catching with its long nose. It was always a wonderful sight watching it take off. So I gave permission for Concorde to take off.
The Concorde takes a moment to gather momentum, but very quickly is speeding down the runway.
That day, and this is one thing a controller like me will never forget, the plane turned on the power, and shortly after it did, I spotted what looked like a flame coming from under the aircraft. I'd never seen a flame behind a plane like that in my entire career.
With flames coming from the back of the jet, Logelin told the pilot the bad news.
You could cut the tension with a knife because it was something so incredible.
At the speed the jet was going, it was already too late to abort the takeoff, and just minutes later, with flames engulfing the wing and with power failing, the Concorde crashed into a nearby hotel, killing all 109 passengers and crew, as well as 4 people on the ground. And still, Gilles Logelin had to keep working.
We were handling a certain number of aircraft, a lot in fact, on final approach, and also those standing ready to depart on parallel runways. What was hard, as I remember, was under this huge stress of seeing something that should never have happened, keeping cool and carrying on working and getting the other aircraft to pull up and go around.
The Concorde crash was caused by debris on the runway, not by the fault of the air traffic controller. Nevertheless, it was hard for Gilles Laugelin.
The worst part of a controller's job is being in contact with a pilot and not being able to do everything you can to help.
Most controllers who are part of an accident, whether they were at fault or not, leave the job. Not Gilles Laugelin. He still works to this day as a controller.
Maybe some have difficulty putting that behind them and regaining confidence. I'd just say that you can keep your confidence and go on working and manage to get around this difficulty.
The accident did not end Laugelin's career, but it did signal the decline of the Concorde. In 3 years, the sleek aircraft was retired from service.
East-facing arrival at Roissy, a 144-ton aircraft with 7.2 tons of gas in its tanks. So clearance of Orly plus 20 minutes, in line with requirements.
Even as technologies evolve, air traffic control remains a tough job, and the increase in air traffic isn't helping. This is especially true for controllers working the crowded skies of Europe.
9990, descent level 60.
Half of the passengers on our flight will change planes in Paris and fly on to another destination. Having landed them in Paris, air traffic control will have to get them back into the air and through a confusing jumble of jurisdictions that will cause delays and inefficiencies.
Several countries in Europe are mandated to control the sovereign airspace of other states. We certainly pass through the hands of various controllers of different nationalities.
The Europeans are working on this problem. Eurocontrol in Brussels is leading a project they call the Single European Sky.
We are working with 28 European Union member states, with 40 Eurocontrol member states, and each of them, of course, have their own sovereignty over their airspace. Even more, we are working with 70 air traffic control centers. So all of those need to be put together through the Single Sky Initiative.
The idea is that we're smarter and stronger together than alone. It's important to have unity, a common vision shared by all these countries, and a unified, standardized method of working.
The skies over Europe aren't united yet, and the future single sky will need some advanced technologies. Technology for most controllers has changed slowly. Their workstations are still rooted to the keyboard and the mouse. But in order to handle more flights, that will have to change. A French company, Thales, is working on the air traffic workstation of the future. It's called SHAPE.
I'm about to demonstrate the SHAPE system, which is our vision of an air traffic controller's workstation. It has some extra capacities that we've invented to provide controllers with this enhanced service. We've combined a number of technologies, in particular the eye tracker, which will enable us to point and select a flight using just the eyes.
Instead of the keyboard, basic hand gestures will do the same work. And instead of using a mouse to select a flight, the controller will be able to use his eyes. A simple glance will do it.
I just have to look at a flight for the eye tracker to select it. It knows exactly where I'm looking on the screen. Thanks to these innovations, we can save at least 70% of the time spent interacting with the system, which is quite a lot.
Still en route, our flight will soon be in range of Paris air traffic control.
And in 20 minutes or so, about 160 nautical miles, we'll begin our descent to Paris and pick up their control.
France 011, report your speed to Brest 130.235, goodbye.
120-235 is the speed of France 011, bye-bye.
This is the radar control room here at Roissy. From here, we manage the Paris airspace encompassing 120 nautical miles around Roissy, almost 200 kilometers. Our aim is to regulate flights in intervals of 100 seconds, given that there are 3 runways in use. Our triple simultaneous parallel approach is pretty rare. I think it's the only one in Europe. And that's what makes it so complicated when there's heavy traffic into Roissy. The big challenge for any control room is to handle whatever comes our way.
Ladies and gentlemen, a few details about the end of our flight. In 2 minutes' time, we'll be starting our descent towards Paris Charles de Gaulle, where we expect to touch down on time at 11 o'clock local time and arrive at the gate 10 minutes later.
And what's arriving just now is our flight, Air France 011, now within range of Paris approach. Thomas will merge the flight with others before handing it over to the tower.
Air France 011 à droite, cap sud, descendez 5000 pieds 1015.
Bonjour, Air France 011, 7 petites lumineuses, 0 d'approche.
Le boulot du pilote.
The pilot's job, his mission, is to safely land the plane and the passengers and get to the gate as soon as possible for commercial reasons. We don't manage a plane. We don't manage just one flight. Our job is to make it all work together. We manage the flow of traffic.
On gère des flux de trafic. Air France Hôtel India, réduisez la convenance.
And in fact, what makes a good controller is being efficient in spacing the planes. If I'm asked to leave 90 seconds between planes, I can do that without bothering my colleague next to me, who's also leaving 90 seconds on another runway, and without interfering with the departure controller who's putting his planes up. And at some point, the arrivals intersect with departures. With all that happening, you have to be good at what you do. Be aware of everything going on around you, attentive and concerned. Air traffic control is not just technical, in fact, it's very human.
And this is Air France Flight 011 coming in.
Air France 011, bonjour, descendez 4000 pieds 1015, un guidage 09 gauche, il n'y a pas de place au-dessus de malheureusement.
France 011, contactez la tour 119-25, bonne journée.
Thomas Bittard and his colleagues at Approach Control have done their work. The plane is now on final descent. Soon, the tower controller will guide it to the ground.
Delta 170, can we give us about 30 seconds? Copy the Cardivac ready. Okay, thank you. Lingua 42.
100, 50, 40, 30, 20, 10.
It is a constant mind, mouth, everything has to work together and it has to work constantly.
That's the paradox. You go for that moment because without it, the job isn't interesting, if it's just a matter of talking to a few planes.
Durham 381, speak to 20 knots, descent level 80.
United 54, straight to join Bravo, then Foxtrot.
Always keep the airport moving. Keep it moving. That's what we tell guys, people who are training. You got to keep it moving. If an airplane stops, it's unhappy.
Voici Air France 011, au revoir, merci.
Air France 011, la tour 119-25, bonne journée.
Et je me rends compte par rapport à
From talking to friends, I realize what a luxury it is to enjoy going to work, to have a job you love. And whenever it is, even on the weekend or at night, I'm happy to go to work. I'm really lucky. As long as I feel like that, I'll stay.
Our flight is over, and the passengers have landed safely. The nervous flyers can breathe a sigh of relief. Others are already deep into the rest of their day. Some thank the cabin crew, perhaps the pilots. Virtually nobody thinks of all the men and women who work day and night to guide them safely throughout the flight. But they owe their lives to them all the same.